I'm working with established businesses. I do a similar thing where I get them to write an outline brief. I get them to be very clear what they're trying to achieve, and then we will assess at least 3 or 4 designers by looking at their portfolio, talking to them, and then after that putting a proposal together. And I find that the biggest criteria is the chemistry. Does that business get on with that person? Yes, the work matters, but once you've gone beyond saying, yes, they're capable of doing the project, then the chemistry really matters. Will you deliver the results? And for this voucher scheme, you know, what are you offering? So if I'm working with a business, it's going to be, we're going to get proposals from different designers, and obviously that proposal matters. I also put in, a colleague of mine, Simon May, actually put together a pitching process, and I find this a little bit complicated for small to medium-sized businesses, but I think it's what people are looking for. You know, they are looking for a quality of creativity, and to be honest with SME, sometimes I put a very creative designer and a not so creative. There is, you know, different. Some are very good practitioners, very good at implementing something. Others are much more creative, and sometimes a client may say they want somebody creative, but actually they don't want it that far creative. So, you know, there's a quality. Is it very creative or moderately creative? And I think it's important. That's fine. Value for money, somebody said. And he said, you know, what's the project team, their technical capabilities? Have they got project management skills? How good are they at problem solving? Flexibility, can they respond to things as things change? And then very much previous experience, understanding that market. Chemistry, he also said, presentation skills. I'm a bit worried about making it presentation skills, because you're not employing a designer, say, for their ability to write or necessarily their ability to present. You really have to base it on their ability to deliver whatever they're going to design. And so I caution clients, you know, like the guy who was nervous, you know, don't put off the fact that he actually struggles to communicate with you. Just look at his work. It's really good. And knowledge of the company, and I think that's something that you can think about if you're actually getting to that final stage of pitching. You've got to actually think about that company. So in terms of presenting your business, you know, first impressions do matter. I think you can change perception, but I think you need to think about how you present it. So you've got your directory entry, which will be written, and I don't know whether there's visual things that are going to be in the directory. Sorry, Mary, is there visual? Are there going to be examples of work in there, or just a written? Just a written. So we have 100 words apparently to present yourselves. I'd like to see a link to your websites or something where you can present. Yeah, that is on your application, so that's actually the same thing that's applying. So you've also got to think about the audience of these people, or that you're actually applying to them. To be included, and then you'll have some process of actually pitching when you'll be presenting your portfolios or your work or talking, and how you do that. I think often businesses, creative businesses, think that somehow business is a separate thing, just like businesses think creativity is a separate thing. And actually you have the skills. You know, you think about who your audience is. If you're an actor, don't you? If you're a designer, you know, when you're designing for a client, you're thinking about who's the user of that, who's the audience for that. So just the same, think about that. If you're putting something together for a project, you're thinking about a budget, you're thinking about the time. These are all the business skills that business people need, so that it's not so far different. Maybe you bring something added and a bit of a sparkle, but think about your own business in the same way as you would working with a client. You need to be your own brand. So if you're applying what a brand would be for clients, think about how you would brand yourself and how you would be perceived. I think, you know, things like story writing skills, maybe you need to collaborate. Maybe amongst you creatives, maybe you need a bit of collaboration to start off with, that maybe the writers here could help some of the people who are the visual people who are less able to put words together, and they could help with some images. So there's automatically an area of collaboration. And I've put props in there, like theatre. You know, when you're presenting to a client, there are props. You know, sometimes it's examples of work. It might be a methodology. Ian showed his way of, you know, his questionnaire. That's a prop, isn't it? It demonstrates something about you as a business. And I came up with sort of 3 areas that I think are very, very important. If I was dealing with any business, whether it's creative or not, you know, the biggest thing is differentiate. There's going to be a big group of you who maybe have similar capabilities. It's important you present your specialisms. The one thing I say to business, it's no good that you're doing everything for everybody. You need some areas that make you stand out from other people. So it's important to show what your specialism, what makes you different from everybody else. Focus. I've just realised I actually wrote a detail. So differentiation, about standing out from the crowd, yeah? And to be remembered. You know, if somebody's going through a lot of things, how will they remember you? Something that's different. And as I said, specialisms work. So then focus, relate to your audience. Think of the businesses that you're going to. Use their language. I mean, we've heard quite a lot of jargon earlier on. You know, I don't know how many people understood all the jargon that was there. But if you start using jargon with the business, you're immediately going, they glaze over. My favourite, disliked word is collateral. And you get a lot of marketing people and some design people using collateral. And I always think of collateral damage. So, if it's a brochure, just call it a brochure or a leaflet. Don't call it collateral. But be very careful because you come from a particular area, whether you're using jargon that a small to medium-sized business won't understand. Think very much about their needs. Focus, what are they going to want? If you're putting an offer together, why would they want to be in business? Ultimately, they all have to either make a profit or survive. What matters to them? And think about that. Listen as well as talking. Sometimes we get too carried away about talking about ourselves and trying to sell to things, but you also need to listen and you'll hear what their needs are. And think about how you present yourselves. It could be about how you dress. Are you going to be business-like in the way? I tended to move, as a designer, I moved to being quite business-like and undesignery in the early stage, sort of 15 years ago, because designers were seen as fluffy. So I thought I'd be extremely business-like. And finally, when a client actually commented that I didn't look much like a designer. So you can't win, can you? So we both chose. He chose to have a non-business day, and I had to have a non-business day as well. And I then realised I'd got nothing other than business stuff or stuff I'd never be seen out in, and had to buy a few things. There we are. But think about, somebody talked earlier about stereotyping. Don't turn up just as that stereotype. If you think the businesses are going to worry about whether a creative is going to go mad with their money, show them that you have all those capabilities, that you can be sensible people. Think about your behaviour. I'm not somebody who's very word orientated, so spelling, I'm actually quite good at spelling, but actually words don't matter. I'm not very precise about it. But I know clients of mine who go completely demented. They get a proposal and they'll fixate on the fact that it hasn't been spelt right or the grammar's wrong. So think about their preoccupations. And I think above all, I think it's about being businesslike. And then lastly, I think to hang on it, and this is where our writers will be very helpful, I think it's about storytelling. People remember stories. People find it easier if a story runs through. So when I was talking to you about active pixels, I told you the story I told you about before. And that's another thing. If I'm getting designers to present what's happened, I always want them to tell what was the situation before they got involved, not just look what I've done. Because the business won't know what difference you made. So I think taking stories are very important. In that, you've got visual stories as well as text or verbal. So some of this will be about words, some of it will be about showing images, and some of it will be saying things. So if you're actually meeting the business face to face, it'll be about verbal, won't it? And of course, you've got to demonstrate your capabilities. So putting work that you've done before, taking the story. If you are presenting some things you've done, 3 appropriate examples are enough. The other thing I see is designers saying, and I did this project, and I did this project. And the client at first has been quite in favour of them and suddenly starts to go off them as they go on and on and on about it. 3 good projects, possibly 4. Have others examples in reserve that you can talk about if the client brings up something in particular. But keep it simple, keep it short. And above all, show results. Somebody said down here, they want to know that you can achieve results for them. They're investing in this. I think it's good because they'll value it better if they're putting their own money into it. as well as being supported. So it's important that you show results. So I was very aware that I'd ended up with an entirely text-based thing apart from the images, and I thought I'd need an image. And also I said 3 tips. I said differentiate, focus and story. I had DFS and I thought, oh God, I've got DFS. So you'll remember that, won't you? So differentiate, get across your specialisms, focus, really think about your audience, and tell stories that involve results. So the core of this was to actually teach you a methodology that I was taught, which is an elevator pitch. And the idea being that, if people don't know, is that you get in an elevator, there's somebody you really like to do business with, and you've got 60 seconds to actually explain your business, and then they'll be out of the lift. It doesn't sound right, a lift pitch, does it? The elevator pitch. Has anybody done an elevator pitch before? 1, 2, 3. So you've had good practice. Great, you can help other people with doing an elevator pitch. I see this elevator pitch as being a way in which you would maybe, when you're networking, verbally tell people about your business. But equally, and I wouldn't suggest it stays in exactly the same format, but this discipline of doing this elevator pitch in a very short bit gives you the content for that 100 words. You might choose to leave some bits out or phrase it differently, but that's the content for your 100 words. And if you're meeting businesses, the first introduction to actually be able to explain your business clearly to them in that first 60 seconds is very helpful. So what we're going to do is we're going to write an elevator pitch. I think we're okay for time, aren't we? And it comes in 3 parts. Excuse me. I could just do some water. The first part is, it starts with you know when. Yeah? And in this first part, you start with them. You start with your audience first, because that's where they start. So you need to be in their heads. And what you want to do in an elevator pitch is to describe the situation that the potential customer will experience when they'll need you, your product or service. Get them to imagine being in the situation. Yeah? So you know when you're struggling to find new clients, or you know when nobody's made an inquiry for a long time. So get to their area of pain, get into their heads first. So the first part is you know when, and then you fill in what situation you think would be appropriate. The next section is, well, what I do or what we do is, and then tell them the features of your service. So Ian said, what do you do? A succinct description of what you do so that they can easily understand it in their terms. Okay, so that's the second part. And then the third part, in good marketing terms, which means that. And that's about the results, because nobody's taking you on because you just do it. They're doing it because they need something from it. And therefore it's the benefits. So what are the benefits that potential customer is going to gain from using your products or service? So I will give an example. I'm not sure if it's 6 seconds. Okay, so this is CEOSTRA, me. You know when you're facing opportunities that you want to exploit or challenge, such as declining sales, increased competition, and you're not sure of the best route forward? Well, we work with managing directors, management teams to design effective strategies and use our skills in marketing and profit improvement to take the business forward, providing support, injecting creativity, utilising our knowledge and experience of successful small and medium-sized businesses. This enables you to carry on running the day-to-day activities of the company whilst also developing the business, which means that you become more successful or quickly return to prosperity and overcome the barriers that often prevent businesses from growing. I'm not sure it's the best example, but it's mine. God. Thank you. I know that the middle bit's too long. That's something I should modify. I don't know, I think I might have improved on that since then. So what I wanted you to do now is I want you individually to write yourself an elevator pitch. And one thing I realised is that not everybody might have pen and paper. So I don't know whether we need to find people pen and paper or people can share. When I'm helping students, I normally get the students who've not brought a pencil or paper to be sold bits of pencil and paper by the other students. But I think you'll be generous enough if somebody needs a pencil and paper. So I'm going to get you to take 5 minutes to write your own elevator pitch. So starting with you know when, to write the customer situation. And then, well, what we do is, and what you do, which means